Welcome to Left Back in the Changing Room.
Way.
Welcome, guys. We are back in NYC this week. We have returned from our away days. A successful trip all around. We got that important away victory that we needed. This week, I'm joined by the beautiful Neil Van Dijk. He is back here.
MVD. I miss you guys. Last week, I miss you guys.
It's been too long, baby.
It's glad to be back in your company. And as you heard there, we had the main man as well, Ricky Pellegrini.
Woohoo!
Way. Jimmy Ferguson, he's still on his honeymoon, he is now. So we won't be able to see him for honeymoon and married probably 6 months.
He's a shackled man.
He'll be allowed out again?
Shackled man.
Yeah, 6 months will give him.
You never see him again.
His wedding went well. Great result at his wedding as well. He's very happy. As soon as he saw his score, he's up to 4th in our table. So I think he would be happy with that. I think it made the day for him.
Yeah, and we're not joined this week, surprisingly, by Patrick Vieira. What did he finish on this week? 21 points, Patrick Vieira. That wasn't the best.
Yeah, it was a shame. He was talking about his days back with Roy Keane and those battles that he had in the tunnel as he was going out on Old Trafford. But he's calming down. He might be joining us for the next Monday. We'll see if he's back.
But it was a really exciting week of football that we had. There was a lot of goals, a lot of big point scorers, which I was pretty happy with, to say that. So let's start today.
John McGinn, fanboy. Let's not beat around the bush.
A lot of movement at the top of the table.
89 points. There was a lot of movement.
I'm trying to be modest against your points here.
I can tell you were being very polite there, and that's very kind of you. But yes, I am officially knocked off the top spot.
We are top of the league.
Cream,
top of the league.
Exactly. The cream has risen to the top. Sean John McGinn fanboy.
I think 6 weeks ago I was bottom.
Last place to first, 89 points. Solid few weeks. He's on form.
It just shows you
top of the league.
Just shows you that listening to the podcast and the sound advice has dramatically improved Sean's performance.
It's the momentum, you know. You get the fans behind you. You get a home game in this beautiful stadium. You can hear them in the background here, and that really spurs you on, the momentum.
You know what though, John McGinn fanboy, in all seriousness, what's your trick? You was mentioning earlier it might have been your wild card a few game weeks back that really kick-started your campaign.
Yeah, my wild card, I think 6 weeks ago now, I got 89 points after that week, and that was kind of, you can do this, Sean. That was the confidence
Game
boost.
week 4.
Now looking last week I got 72 points, and this week I got another 8 to 9. Important things is keep main players in there, but don't be afraid to also get rid of them and don't hold onto them for so long. Your captain's obviously big. I've been a bit lucky there a couple of weeks in a row.
If I can make an observation, I think looking at your teams the past, I'd say 5 game weeks, mostly on rather than off, I think your captain choices have been spot on.
Spot on. Absolutely
and
spot on.
They make the difference, especially if you've got those players that are actually scoring well. You naturally had kind of Vardy in the week before, so you've done really well with your captain choices. That's got you to the top of the table.
Yeah, to be honest, every week I've had at least 3 midfielders who I just can't get right. I don't seem to be able to pick a good midfielder, except Manny in there, which I captained this week at the last minute. That paid off for me, so that's what I'm a bit worried about. I don't want to get too complacent. We'll come to it later in the show, but this week I'm kind of running out of ideas. It's interesting, but it's been a nice little run of form that I've had on.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Sean John McGinn fanboy. In terms of captain choices, it is imperative that you get that right week in, week out, and that really does make the difference between you winning or losing the league. Just the fact that you've gone from bottom of our league, risen to the top, just shows you FPL managers out there, the game is never done and dusted. So you could be 50 to 100 points behind the leader, completely out of the game, but don't ever give up. Sean John McGinn fanboy is testament to that.
I'll run through my team, just sort of starting there. Schmeichel in goals. Schmeichel was one of these players where I put him in 3 weeks ago, and to be honest, I think when you look at the player list on the app, you see the form. The form is one of the first things that they rank your team on. Form can be a bit misleading. It's good to have some momentum behind you, but it has to turn at some point. When I put Schmeichel in goals, I know Pellegrini was laughing at me. He's done great the last 2 weeks. 7 points last week, 8 points this week. It's really a testament. You know, you have to try and find that player that's maybe not picked up a lot of points, but it's going to start to turn. I'm happy with Schmeichel there. Landstram, I had at the back. What a week. What a week for a defender. 21 points is a brilliant return.
Lundstram, what is going on with Lundstram? Because
this is a player.
Let's talk about Lundstram.
That's the thing. I mean, this is a player that we've called out on the show many game weeks ago. I got to be honest, I week in week out haven't even heeded that advice and put him him in my team. He's that midfielder who's listed as a defender. If you see his 2 goals at the weekend, he was so far up the pitch. He was the guy on the right-hand side.
He was almost playing like the Salah position.
He was.
It wasn't just a right back or a right wing back.
He was on the right side almost of a front three, and he was the person on the end of a good crossing. His goals were almost identical. I don't want to call it a tap-in, but actually he was in the right place, right time, good finish.
And talking about Salah and Mane, who we are going to come on to as well, do you know he's owned by more percentage of people than Salah and Mane? I'm not surprised that, obviously the 21 points is a big red flag for anyone.
I was scared to put him in my team, and I actually only did transfer him in 2 weeks ago.
No, did you really?
Second,
oh my word!
Second week in the
right
team.
Time.
Yeah, and I was kind of worried he'd been. Well, I had missed out a lot of points. People were picking up.
He got 12 points game week 6.
Yeah,
against
after
Everton.
that, I was a bit apprehensive because I feel that players need to run out of form at some point. You know?
Like Pookie.
Exactly, like Pookie. So then I kind of held off, and he just kept returning, and then he was pretty cheap. He's currently 4.8, I think 2 weeks ago he was 4.6, and then 2 points last week. I thought maybe it's past the boat, but bang, this week 21 points.
And does anyone know what he started out as? I think he was bang on like 4 million at the start of the season, and that just shows you he's risen 0.8 million.
And to be fair to FPL managers,
in 11 game weeks,
and to be fair to FPL managers, he's still relatively cheap from a defender perspective. He's 4.8 million. You've got other defenders that may not even play week in week out, are fringe defenders that are 5 million plus.
Yeah.
And the fact that actually, as we've said, he operates sometimes in that kind of midfield zone and gets further up the field, he's always going to be someone, and especially with the Sheffield United, who have got actually quite an assured defence.
Yeah.
So not only are you potentially going to get clean sheets and therefore the bonus on the least goals conceded or no goals conceded, but the fact that he kind of pops up and gets a goal or two.
The one concern there is the teams that they've got, the fixtures coming up the next 2 weeks. Teams that should be hard, but the way this season is going, who knows? And we'll come back to him definitely in the second half of the show, I would say.
It's interesting, and just to lead on to the next 2 defenders that you had there, we were mentioning last week and the week before that we should avoid big cost defenders other than the Liverpool fellas. But the Sheffield United defenders are proving, not just Lundstrom by the way, they're in the top 10. A lot of the Sheffield United defenders, because of the clean sheets they're having, and they're getting involved with the attacking play as well. To lead it onto your team, John McGinn fanboy, Alexander Arnold and Robertson you have. On the back line.
It was surprising this week, right? Villa popped up, 1-0 up. They've done that a few times this season. Gone ahead early, then find it hard to hold on, just learn that Premier League mentality. Looking at 85 minutes gone in the game, I thought, what am I doing? Alexander Arnold and Robertson, it's a dud for them this week. Then all of a sudden Robertson pops up, and then
what header!
Alexander Arnold goes and sets up Mane.
What a cross from Mane as well, his left foot. Mane was driving everything forward for Liverpool against Villa. He was the main man, and he's really solidifying himself as the number one Liverpool asset to have in your team. Salah, unfortunately, I don't know whether it's his knock to his ankle. Some people are saying it's that. I personally think Mane has just risen above him and really proven himself. There's no debate anymore.
I think so as well.
I think it's a downturn of form, to be honest, for Salah. Yeah, his injury has kind of precluded him from training with the team as a whole. If you watch the Champions League game today, he's actually started to show some of the flashes of brilliance that he had maybe 2 seasons ago. Okay. That quick drop of the shoulder.
Yeah.
It's great going into the game this week against City. Something to kind of think about for FPL managers who've transferred him out. This could be
Salah.
Yeah. It could be a game week that you potentially kind of put him back in and he returns to form,
returns to goal.
But if you want a solid option, then I think as managers have done, keeping Salah instead of ahead of Firmino and Salah has been a sensible pick.
I feel the same a little bit with the Salah and Mane debate. I'm waiting for Salah to get back onto form because I feel like when one competes, then the other, they never really get the same amount of points on the same game week, right? It's always one or the other. So I feel like Salah is due a big burst of goals or assists and FPL points. So I'm going to hold on to him for a little bit longer, especially this Man City game that's going to be crucial to their season.
I'm moving on to my midfield. One of my best decisions was putting Mane in there. Every time I watch him, I just see so much creativity and it doesn't look to be stopping. Again, he almost had a penalty this week, whether that was a dive or not, right?
Questionable. it's very carbon copy of what happened the 2 weeks previous, right? And he got those penalties right. He gets himself in front of the ball, uses his body weight, get in front of the defender, and makes it very awkward. But the thing is, he should have got another assist as well for Firmino's disallowed goal, which has been a big hot topic for VAR. Was it really offside?
Was his armpit offside, and was that conclusive?
Exactly. I think it's getting ridiculous, and I think the whole of the Premier League are in debate about this at the moment. But I think the one agreement that is
Neil Van Dijk
insane.
was screaming at the ref on Saturday.
Terrible,
MVD
terrible.
was
up there.
I mean, those lines, those funny little lines that they drew, weren't even parallax, and they weren't straight, and basically worked in the favour of Villa. I think it was, the VAR referee that day was probably Martin Atkinson, so hence why the decision went against us. So there you go, such is life. But again, that VAR debate runs even wider now as to kind of whether it's good for the game or not. I guess we shall see for the latter half of the season.
Looping back to the Mane versus Salah debate very quickly, Mane is owned by 32.9% and Salah is 27.6%, so that is highlighting the trend. I think a lot of people are switching from Salah to Mane. Will that prove costly for FPL managers this weekend? Salah is becoming a differential now. So if Salah scores big results, the ones who do have him will be looking good at the weekend.
And Mane as well, I actually made my captain this week. That was a last minute game time decision I made. A couple of minutes before the deadline, I switched. I was going between Aguero and Vardy. Vardy had a strong week the week before. Aguero, was he going to play? Was he going to start? Was he going to do
against
well?
Southampton, who just lost 9-0.
Yeah, and
so it makes sense. It makes sense. So that's a bold decision.
He had played the good game on the Wednesday night at Southampton as well, and scored as well. And I was like, will he even start? And then for some reason, something just attracted me to Mane. I thought that, and again,
what was it though? What was it? Because that was a very bold decision to go from Man City versus Southampton, who just lost 9-0 to Leicester, and Man City were at home, and Aguero scores at home all the time. So that was a very bold decision, obviously paid off. But that is fascinating.
They don't call me Sean Mourinho for nothing. We'll just put that out there.
He's got a new name. He's got a new name. Sean Mourinho. He's got a new name. Sean McGinn fanboy is very jealous.
Villa, did they do anything in that match?
I think they played well. They held off Liverpool for a good amount of time. They defended as a team.
They did. I was surprised with Villa. I think they were well organised, got men behind the ball. To be honest, caught us on the counter-attack a couple of times, but credit to Liverpool. We are mentality monsters, is what we're colloquially referred to now. Hopefully that's the type of mentality that strives towards is winning the league. I think that's a little bit of the differential from last season, where there were certain games where we just capitulated. Now I'm starting to get the feeling that you can never rule us out, and long may it continue.
But it is true, because if you saw the interview from my hero after the match, Sir John McGinn, he said that the arguing Liverpool players drained Aston Villa mentally, and he said constantly they were on at them the whole game, just off the ball, just like talking and shouting, and like it confused them.
Yeah,
and it's something that you won't see watching it on TV or being at the game.
It's true. An insider source friend of ours got a Liverpool was
Jurgen Klopp.
I thought it was him. Oh no, he has the.
He was actually
the Klopp button.
Yeah. He was actually telling me what the Liverpool players were saying. They were on repeat saying hashtag left back FPL.
They
were.
I believe that.
Putting the word out there.
FPL fans, you know what's on the tongue of Premier League players?
Liverpool's on fire, mate.
Liverpool's on fire.
John McGinn fanboy is on fire.
Sean Mourinho, self-proclaimed Sean Mourinho. You're hearing it first, live in New York. Sean Mourinho.
They left him on midfield though, would leave you wondering, and it didn't pick up a lot of points. Perez from Leicester. We'll come back to Leicester a bit later. Just Perez, a bit worried about. I brought him in after obviously the hat-trick last week. I read some stats. The players after getting a hat-trick, they don't do much. I don't know if that was just a bit optimism, but to be honest, I was struggling to find anyone else. Mount, we love to Mount.
We love to Mount. He's such a Mount.
Did absolutely nothing this week except pick up a knock. He actually got a booking.
But he had 2 shots on target, Mount, and he should have scored, to be fair. Ben Foster was actually very good against Chelsea. Despite the scoreline, I think he would have saved them an embarrassing 5 or 6-1. They should have scored a lot more goals, but Ben Foster, I think he's a solid keeper. Abraham, obviously, on the mark there. But yeah, Mount. We all like to Mount. I still believe in Mount.
Then I had James in midfield as well. I've stuck with James. Consistently been around, going from 2 to 6 points, doing nothing special. For some reason, I like him. Maybe it's time to get rid of him.
Him or Traore, right?
Yeah, and I also have Traore who got 2 points, and again, that was just a bit of optimism after his double against City, wasn't it? And again, do I get rid of him? But my problem here with my team is these 4 midfielders I just mentioned. I think Mount's the most expensive there, followed by James.
Yeah.
Traore and Perez are both under 5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And it's kind of hard to find a midfielder at that range that's going to pick up
a great
lot of
point,
points.
Sean Mourinho. Basically, in terms of freeing up credit and funds for your team, where are you looking to strengthen? Obviously, it is the midfield, right? So you're looking to maybe ditch Mount, James or Traore. They're the lower cost options. You want to stick with Mane and Perez, it sounds like. Our listeners out there, what would you be